to tell you about here in a moment. And then third of all, people. Great people. For you guys who are new or haven't been to a Youngevity talk, we're all friends here. We're all peers. We're all colleagues. We're all in this together. And that's one of the greatest things about Youngevity is it brings together people like a family who have kind of this mindset of helping people. You know how there's some people in the world that just like to help people? That's what Youngevity attracts, is people who want to make a difference, people who want to improve the lives of other people. So I've been doing it for 24 years. The success of the business can be attributed to those three factors. And hopefully for you guys who have never participated in Youngevity or who are just kind of on the edges, dabbling on the edges, that this conversation that we're going to have here today will inspire you, and I love that word, inspire you to participate, not just for you, but for everybody else, for your neighbors, for your friends, for your family. I mean, you're gonna get some beyond tangy tangerine here. The changes you can make in somebody's health are just beyond tangy tangerine. If you don't do it, you're holding out. Why would you hold out on your neighbors and your friends? Why would you not want your neighbors and friends to be able to enjoy the power of Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the blood pressure lowering power, the weight loss power, the energizing power, the immune boosting power? Why would you not want to share that? So I want you guys to be inspired, and I know you will from the stories that you're going to hear, but I also want you to be inspired by Youngevity and what we bring to the table. So I've known Glenn now for 6-7 years. I've known Dr. Mitchell for just as long, and I've always wanted to bring these guys to a conversation, to a meeting, so you guys can hear their story. Farmer Glenn has one of the most inspiring, powerful stories you're ever going to hear. I'm going to let him tell you the story, but he has dealt with one of the most horrible things anybody could ever hear in their life, and he's dealt with it with grace and with power and with skill in a way that you can't help but be totally inspired. Dr. Taylor Mitchell, who I've known now for 5 or 6 years, she's inspiring because she's so young and so wise and so gifted in making a difference in people's lives, not just through Youngevity, but with her own practice as well. And I hope you find my story inspiring as well. I'm going to tell you how I got into the business and why I do what I do, as well as give you some tips on how to build your business using nutritional supplements. So we'll be here it's a little after 11. We'll stay here for 2 hours, and then we'll stay for questions afterwards. Farmer Glenn will go first. I call you Farmer Glenn. It's Glenn Schultz. And then Dr. Mitchell, and then I'll finish up. So without further ado, my good friend and inspiration, Farmer Glenn Schultz.
Wow, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm so honored for all you guys who showed up here. Just by a show of hands, how many of you are here because I invited you? Just raise up your hand. Look at that. Man, I am.
Thank you. Fan club.
Thank you. I got a fan club. And then we have, 20 plus watching online. So thank you very much for showing up here. I know a lot of you guys live far away, and so thanks for being here. All right, so he held up this product. So I'm going to tell a story. Youngevity is about products, but I'm not going to sell you any products. But I'm going to point to some products as I tell my story, because they're an integral part of my story. And this one here, I love this product. It was Beyond Keto, and so before I got my cancer diagnosis, I was on a keto diet, and was, God dang, things were going pretty good. I got some friends in the audience here, and I was losing weight, and I was feeling good, and everything was going great. And I'm like, this keto stuff's really working. And I got to the point, though, not knowing that the cancer was developing out, I couldn't eat, and that's the stomach cancer. It was esophageal stomach cancer, so my cancer grew right at the end of my esophagus into my stomach, and it blocked things from going down. So, but I remember my friend Laura in the audience here. I said, I just eat ice cream all the time now. I just do ice cream shakes, and I'm still losing weight like crazy, and I don't know why this is working. And she's like, that's crazy. And I'm like, I know, I'm going to write a book. I'm like, look at all that. But unfortunately, I was doing the wrong things. I mean, really, I was doing organic ice cream and organic milk, and I'm an organic guy, so I had all that dialed in. But there was sugar in that, and so I was actually feeding my tumor. Now, that's what I learned within this community of Youngevity. And what I love about being in this community is that they teach you how to take care of yourself. And they teach you about things that really the doctors don't tell you. I mean, I've seen a lot of doctors and some very smart people here in the last several months, but they don't tell you. I've asked their dietitians, is there anything I should be doing and not eating? And no, just moderation. Eat all the colors, and they didn't tell you there was a diet that you should be a part of. And this is our medical system, right? They don't tell you. Well, within this community that I belong with, and I've been within Youngevity for 10 years, and I just started for the products. And it's like, I don't want anything to do with any kind of business. And in fact, it's a network marketing company. And they're like, that was even worse in my book. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, why would they do that? Why would they take such great products and run it through a network marketing company? Well, as it turns out, that was a really brilliant move because it was word of mouth. It was neighbors telling neighbors, friends telling friends, people sharing with other people, real live testimonies. That really was the best way to go about this. And quite frankly, all this information was shared with the medical community, but they didn't want anything to do with it. They have, the medical community makes their money, if you guys probably already know this, they make their money selling pharmaceuticals and doing surgery. So it's up to us to make sure we don't ever end up in their little pharmaceutical surgery thing. And as it turns out, it's nutrition is the key to doing that. It's much like, preventative. How do you prevent a fire? Well, you rake the leaves away from the house. You keep the combustibles away from the fireplace. That's how you prevent a fire. But when's the last time the fire department showed up at your house and said, hey, you need to move those leaves, you need to move those combustibles? They don't do that. They wait till the house is caught on fire, and then they show up. And they control it. You don't get restored. They just control it. They don't want it going over the neighbors. They don't want it burn it all down. So our medical system is much the same. So it is up to us to do the preventative measures by eating right and getting nutrition. All right. So now I'm an organic farmer. Many of you guys know that, but I can bring all this down into the soil and how our soil needs to be looking to grow medicinal, nutritional quality foods, and then you eat those, and then you'll get all your nutrition. However, today's reality is that we do not have enough nutrition in our food. The way we grow food is chemically, and we double and triple crop on these fields. And the only nutrition that's in that food that we eat today that's commercially available is what's being sprayed on it, or the chemical NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are the three major elements they put in there. Now, a plant, in order to develop higher compounds, the vitamins, the phytonutrients, the health-giving properties that makes it, this thing that would give us health, takes minerals in the soil. Minerals, but what we do in farming, generally, not what I do, but what's being done in farming is we spray chemicals that kill the microbes that are responsible for releasing those minerals out of a rock form. And so now the plants can't take it up, so they can't develop those higher compounds. And then that same spray, and it's a weed killer, a very, very popular weed killer. You probably have some. You spray some on your lawn and your weeds around the house. That same weed killer also chemically binds minerals into a chemical bond that's called chelation. And so all the metallic minerals get bonded up into this chemical bond, and they become unavailable in the soil for 11 years. Half-life. And we've been doing this to our soils, our farm soils in this country for 20, 30 years. So when I say there's no nutrition in the food, I mean it's just a shadow of what it used to be. Now I see a farmer over here, and he's already figured it out, and he grows food correctly, and he'll tell you how it's done as well. But listen, so the solution for the most of us, because farming's a lot of hard work, you got to have land, you got to have water, you got to have time, you got to do a lot of things. So what we got to do then is, how do the rest of us who have sales jobs and accounting jobs and just retired and don't want to put that much effort. How do we get our nutrition? Well, that's what this company is about. And when you learn more about it, you find out our founder, Dr. Wallach, has been doing this for like 30 years, probably 40 years, and he's figured out the formulations to get the nutrition into our bodies. It should have been in the food, but it's not, okay? And it is top of the line. It's a nutraceutical. It is a nutraceutical, meaning it's a classification that is the highest standard out there. All right, so the keto, I'm losing weight, everything's going great, but then all of a sudden, I really can't even do the ice cream anymore. It's just like, So I started talking to Dr. Taylor. She's a friend. Am I doing good, Ben?
Yeah, you're doing awesome.
All right, do you guys want to come in? There's chairs over here. All right. They're standing out in the doorway now. So Dr. Taylor, I was kind of scared of but Dr. Taylor, she's a good friend, and so I'm like, showing her my tongue, and she's looking at my fingernails, and you're doing good, and then I said, boy, I can't sleep. I'm just like kind of regurgitating, and I almost kind of I'm choking. I'm waking up, and I'm thinking I can't catch my breath. I'm like swallowing, it's like things are happening. She's, oh my God, you need to go get some scans, and I'm like, oh. So the one scan they wanted me to do was you can stick a tube down your throat, and it's called the upper GI. It's got a special name, but I was afraid of that. I'm like, there's nobody going to stick anything down my throat, So I was. So this is what I tell this story because it's the same thing that goes through just about everybody else's mind. I don't go see the doctor, and I don't want them to do any of this junk to me because I just don't trust them. That was me. Now most of you may have a different feeling about that, but that's who I was. So we did a MRIs. So they said, oh yeah, we can look at all your organs with MRIs. So I did MRIs first. You got something?
No.
Oh, I thought you were signaling. And but I get there, we do the MRIs, and said, oh, but we can't see your stomach. I'm like, what? You said you can see all my stomach? No, we can't. Stomachs we can't see. So I'm like, oh, gee. So I finally had to go ahead and do the upper GI, and then that was 2 weeks before I had a big event at the farm where we were going to talk about how I had taken some of the very knowledge I learned from this company and out of this book. And by the way, these books are you join this company, and we're going to get you how to look at these books. But anyways, I had a pig that had a belly button hernia. Quick story, little sideline here. And in this book, you look up hernias in the back. It tells you what nutrients are missing out of the diet. I went and added those nutrients to the diet of that pig, and the hernia within 40 days is gone, all right? Just with nutrition. Now, nobody else would have tried that. No, but I'd like, well, it works for me. Why not for the animals? And as it turns out, we're very close to animals, are we not? I mean, we got hearts, we got lungs, we got red blood. Everything is pretty much similar. So this book is pretty awesome. So I'm like, wow, that was cool because I couldn't have talked the pig into like getting well. I couldn't have, put the mind, the cells, and it's like you got, no. I just did it and it happened. That is like wow. And then the next one I had last spring, this time last year, I had a goat and a pig become paralyzed from the waist down. Paralyzed from the waist down. The pig was so big, I couldn't do anything for her. There was no way I could even move her around. She just would scooch around with her front feet, and everything's paralyzed from the back. And she's in her own excrement. I mean, I'm just like, geez. So I just kept feeding her and thinking every day I come back, she was going to be dead. And then it happened to the goat. And I'm looking at the goat, and I'm like, where did you get kicked by a cow? Did you get horned by the cow? She wasn't hurting anywhere, just paralyzed. So I'm like, what is going on? Then it dawned on me. I had learned about this. It's a very common disease among animals. It's called white muscle disease, and it's a mineral deficiency of all things. Mr. Mineral here. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I go to the Colorado Animal Health, and I said, hey, you guys got any of this mineral? oh no, we don't do that. And I said, well, what do you guys do for white muscle disease? And like, well, we don't. You can't cure that. You just, And I'm like, okay. So we searched around. We found it we do have this mineral high in for horses, and here's some for sheep. I'll take that one as a drench. So I was walking around at the farm. I had this big old syringe, and so they get up to the sheep or to the pig and give her a shot of that every day, and to the goat, boom,
In your mouth.
in the mouth. It was a liquid.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you the mineral on purpose, because we'll get to that, because it's not just one mineral. It was a combination of things, but this one mineral in particular needed more. So within 7 days, the goat's up and walking. And again, right here, rare earths, forbidden cures. Forbidden cures. Who forbids it, do you think? Who forbids these cures? Well, the guys who are selling the drugs. Probably. Is there a pharmacist in the house? So.
Quick, shoot him. Oh, no,
No, he'll tell you the truth about them. So, and then within the pig had suffered longer. It took her over a month, but she's up. She had another litter. And oh my God, she totally recovered. And again, I'm just like, there's no way I could have talked those goats and pigs into getting better. And so this stuff works. So I said, we got to have a meeting. So 2 weeks before this meeting, and it's set for August, the end of August, I get diagnosed cancer. They do the upper GI, get cancer, and like, oh gosh, they didn't tell me what stage. And so the first thing that happened. You get with the docs, and I said by that time I was losing quite a bit of weight, and here we're going to go for a little weight comparison. These I never really got to wear, but this used to be my size, right here.
Come on. A little bit bigger.
No! 44s, in case you didn't know, they're brand new still. I never got into them. There are some chairs in here, guys. There's a couple extra. You got to come in. And compared to what I wear now, this is back to my college weight. It's some 32s. Now, that looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Huh? So I'm thinking to myself, well, I could win the weight loss contest now. Damn it, why didn't I enter? So, but it went in the card. So. We get the diagnosis. The event's happening 2 weeks before the event. They said, hey, we need to schedule you for surgery, and we get to get a feeding tube put into you. But the first surgery they scheduled me for, and I had that done right away, and I'm going to just show you real quick. Well, I said, I just need food. Just give me a feed tube. Just put the feed tube down me. I just need food because I'm like really skinny and I can't eat anything. The only thing I was able to eat was Sonic Ice. Anybody familiar with Sonic Ice? It's the chip ice, and it's just like, it's really good. It's like, so I was eating and getting a little water, and that was the only thing I could do at the time. But the first surgery they did was to put this little baby right here. And for those of you who've ever had cancer and chemo treatments, this is a chemo port. This is where they can just jab you real quick, and there's a line that goes right up. I don't know. I mean, it's like to my heart. Yeah, it's like. Then once I submitted to that, then they said, okay, we'll put a feeding tube into you because now we diagnose you as severely dehydrated and malnutrition. I'm like, duh, that was from the get-go. I mean, but they would never say it because. So what is interesting is there was a certain procedure that is like, so as long as I got on the money train, then they were always good to go. But if I was like, I don't want chemo. Well, my wife says, you're getting chemo. I'm like, okay, I'm getting chemo. So, but that's what actually saved my life. And this is the little deal. Where is it? Right here. Don't get grossed out. But this was a little deal that saved my life. So. This was my feeding tube, and what they did, they bypassed my stomach, and they inserted it into my upper intestine, which was just, and then this tube went down in my intestine this way, and then, everything, small intestine is where it gets, where no one wants to know about, but anyway, the upper intestine is just kind of things feeding through, and then I would open this deal up here, take one of these, and I can go through one of these every day. I ended up with some extra ones because I stopped doing it. Fill my tube up here, and so this was another thing. So they were going to give me their standard juice, which was high fructose corn syrup and all kinds of
Lord.
crap. And I'm like, hey, I'm an organic guy. I'm not doing any of that.
Was that insured?
It was probably insured. It was something like that. I mean, so they hunted around. It's like, oh, well, we got this stuff called Kate Farms, and it's organic, and it's your total food supplement. So I would pour this into here, take the end of this deal, plug it up into here, and then in this bag was a pump, and so then I would walk around like this. I had to be on this 16 hours a day. 16 hours a day to get enough nutrition to keep me going, but it did keep me alive. And I did go back and thank that doctor. I said, you saved my life. Now, the chemo doctor, not so much, but anyway. She was poisoning me. So the chemo doctor, she's all, and you're being sold. Now, so let's network marketing, oh, you're just here to sell us. Well, let me tell you, the chemo doctor's out there to sell you too. She's got one thing to do is get you to sign that piece of paper. And you're gonna take this, and here are the side effects, and you're agreeing that you're gonna lose your hair. You're not gonna be able to father children anymore. And there were a couple other little zingers in there too. I forget what they were. I'm like, I ain't signing this. Lynn's like, you're signing that. I'm like, I'm not done with having children. You're done having children. That was a big blow to the male ego. I mean, what do you mean I can't father children anymore? Jesus, I could go to 90 to 100 and just father children. But no. So that was done. So anyways, you signed the piece of paper, and she was going to go with this 3 chemos, and it was an aggressive approach, and we still don't know what stage I am. And they're like, well, maybe we'll go get a second opinion. So we end up going to Houston. And there's a big cancer hospital there called MD Anderson, and it is humongous. You need to imagine how big this industry is. There are a lot of people who are sick running around with cancer. In fact, the statistics say that 1 in 2 men are going to get it, 1 in 3 women are going to get it. So I'm glad you guys showed up here, because what I want to help you understand is that you can do a lot of things to prevent it from happening, but if you do get it, then you got some tools to get out of it. All right, that's what I'm doing. That's why I got the stage today. So get diagnosed, and then it's another month before anything's going to happen. So there's a space in between. I just still don't know the diagnosis, and before I get the tube fed in here, it's a month. What are you going to do in that month's time? Most people are freaking out. I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lean on my friend Ben. I'm going to call the people I know that have these nutritional ideas and supplements. So the one thing I could do, remember, I can't eat. Ice was the best I could do, and we'd buy a bag of ice every day, and I'm just over there eating the ice on a cup. The one thing I did, and this one you'll hear this one a lot. This is plant-derived minerals. I use this on my plants. I give this to my animals. I drink it. It is the base formula for how this supplement works. It is basically, when we say plant-derived minerals, it's over 60 trace minerals in a bioavailable form, 98% available. So when you guys are taking your 1-a-days or whatever it is that you're taking for supplements, those are rock form, and their bioavailability is maybe up 15% at best. 98%. This was already taken up by a plant, and it's already small enough. So it's 1,000 times smaller than the human blood cell. So if I were to pour this on my skin, it would immediately soak in and go to work. Okay, and for cellular function to work correctly, now I'm sounding like Ben, but I listen to Ben a lot. You need all of these cofactors, right? You need all of these cofactors. So when I say it was one mineral, it wasn't one mineral. It was over 60 trace minerals. The same, I give the 60 trace minerals to my animals. So, and then add extra of the ones that they were missing to help them overcome these things, all right? So, what would I do with this? I can't eat, I can't drink. I soak my feet in this. Lynn would give me a sponge bath on my back, and we would, especially the area that it was affected. And that was my treatment. That's the only thing I could do. I couldn't take any of these other great products. Couldn't get them in. So the next challenge is, once I got this thing in, could I take those products? Yes, I did. Most of them are liquid. They mix up with water. The ones that weren't liquid, Lynn and I would spend hours at the picnic table making up these little bags. And this is all the vitamins that come in caplets and cherryport things. And we would make this up, and then we would shake it up in the bottle maker, and then we would add it to this right in there. And so I was getting my supplements, and all of a sudden things started changing for me. Yeah, Carl.
Just a quick aside on that plant-based mineral. The Dr. Wallach had a patient who was in a coma. He was in a coma. They couldn't get him out. They couldn't feed him. And Doc Wallach said, just take the plant-based minerals and spread them all over his body. Came out of the coma.
Yeah.
Lived.
Yeah.
And he's still alive.
So in this community that I belong on, we're inviting you to be a part of, is that, so if you didn't hear this, we know of coma patients that couldn't take any supplements, couldn't do anything. What do we do for them? And this one particular story, this guy was a reverend, right? Very famous reverend in Atlanta, and you'll hear these stories. And all I could do was just bathe him with these plant-derived minerals, and within a couple of days he was up after given the terminal. You're done. All right, so that's what I did in between. That's all I could do in between. And they're just waiting. I think my conventional doctors are just waiting for me to pass out. And they're just, because then they could go in, and just really do their thing. So I make it. I do my event. I kind of look like Helter Skelter. I got down to 150 pounds. 150 pounds. When I was looking at myself in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. I was a death camp prisoner. I looked like I just came from one of those places, skin and bones. And I'm back up to my correct weight. So I gained 25 pounds, at least. And that's awesome, because stomach cancer patients don't gain weight. I find out later. Yes.
Did you take chemo? Did you end up?
Yes, I had to sign that document to get the feed tube. I wouldn't get the feed tube unless I agreed to the chemo. That's how they get you.
What's the correlation there?
Money.
If you didn't get the feed tube, you'd
I would have died, and they would have let me die.
Yeah.
they
They would
allow that.
have let you die.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's the Hippocratic Oath?
Yeah. No, it's well, and it may be an insurance deal. It may be, there may be a lot of good reasons for why. And ultimately, I did have the cancer. Okay, but that was their solution. All right, so now we go for the surgery to put the feed tube in. And thank God they knocked me out, because I don't remember anything about any of this. And they're really good at that. And I wake up and I got this thing, and they're over there injecting water. Now I take my water through the feed tube. Now I take my liquid through the feed tube. Everything comes through the feed tube. And where did I want to go with that? But so we get home after about 3 days recovery, and we start with this. We talk to Doc Wallach. He says, "Can we put it through the feed tube?" Absolutely, it's safe. You can give this stuff. I think Ben has offered one of these to everybody who showed up today. I don't know if you got enough, Ben. You better go back to the storage room. But anyways,
Front row is guaranteed.
Yeah, front row is guaranteed.
That's all I know.
First come, first served.
That stuff tastes good too.
It tastes good. You can give it to infants. You can give it to the elderly. You can give it to your pets. I mean, at the end of the bottle, when I finish mine, this is how I shake mine up, right? I'll have some dregs, just a little bit. You can water your plants with it. Just put it on your plants, and so it's that safe, and it's that great. So what else? What other product can you name for me that can have all those uses, including on the farm? None, zero. That's how I think just fundamentally sound and it makes sense to do something like this. It's not just a one-hit wonder. This thing is what's missing out of the food system. All right, so feed tube. on, and just getting ready to just eat and all this stuff, but regaining strength. Everywhere I go, I'm about 70%. I was 70%, came visited Ben, I had my backpack on. Yeah, this thing's feeding, and it's like going up here, and like everybody's like, oh, I don't want to see that, But I got this really cool bullet hole right now. If you want to see that, but I'll spare you. But that's where the feed tube came out, and it fell out. I wanted it removed, but it fell out on its own. I was working pigs one day, and it's like it failed, and it fell out. And we were, for some of you bought some of my pigs, I said, well, I got to continue with the pigs because John over here, he helped with the pigs. It was a good 4 hours getting those pigs ready, right? Yeah. Sam and John are freaking out. He's like, God, Dad's holding this thing up, and it just fell out of his belly. And, and so I go into the farmhouse and I grab a paper towel and I fold it in, and I got some painter's tape and I just taped it up. All right, let's continue because we couldn't stop. Yeah, John.
Don't forget to tell them you were considering just sticking it back in.
I went over to the water faucet and I rinsed this off. I'm like, I'm trying. And then the surgeon says, "No, we need a scope to see where it's going. You just can't put it back in." Because I had the tool. I had to go to the emergency. This is the second time it fell out. One time it just pulled out this far, and I did just like, So, but there's a little bubble here that they inflate through this little deal here. It's quite ingenious, and that's what kept it in there from pulling out. But this thing failed or lost enough air. And it just tugged out. All right, so
Your body was rejecting it.
right. So 4 hours later, I go to the emergency room because we had to finish the pigs. We finished the pigs, and then I'm just having a conversation with everybody there, and like, oh, you're the guy with the elk, and you know, like, yeah. So, and like, my surgeon told me this would just heal up, and they're like, well, let's check, and I was like, yeah, just heal up. They gave me some gauze, and that was it, and sure enough, it closed up, no infection. That speaks to a strong immune system, right? Of course, the intestine and the outside skin were sewn together, so there was no chance of anything getting into my cavity. For some of you, like, how did they do that? That's what they did.
So by this time, were you able to eat through your mouth?
Oh yeah. Well, by pig time, yeah. But somewhere around December, well, in fact, Thanksgiving, I cooked Thanksgiving dinner. Lynn let me have the deal, so all of a sudden I'm a Make-A-Wish kid. So before, no way would I ever get to cook Thanksgiving dinner. But I watched Jacques Pepin, the French cook guy. So I became very, very obsessed with food. I couldn't have it. I mean, forget the pretty girls and forget the fancy cars. I'm like, food, give me food. So I'm watching all these cooks, and I'm like, oh man, that's going to be great. I could eat again. So I cooked Thanksgiving dinner and I ate Thanksgiving dinner. And it's like, wow, I'm about, and then so we cut back on the juice over here. And about 50% of my calories were coming by mouth. And so this was good. I was making progress in the mineral and we have one supplement. It's this grape stuff, muscadine grape. And it's tannic, very tannic. You know what the skin of a grape tastes like? That's what this stuff was made of. I mean, it was just that, pure that. And it was like, wow. So I was like, oh, I can just put that down the old tube here, and I don't have to taste anything. It was good. But it's a very, very strong cancer fighter. So what the medical community also won't tell you is that there are all kinds of things out there naturally occurring. Wesley over here sells medicinal mushrooms. He grows them. He did turkey tail and lion's mane and I don't know, just reishi. Oh my God, reishi! Look up some of these things. You'll see all the studies have been done. But you ask your oncologists about it, they know nothing about it. Zero. They got to play in this box. They can't look outside of this box. They lose their license. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons that they don't.
They lose their insurance. They lose their bonds.
They lose everything, right? So they only play. So you're going to somebody. Oh, that was another thing I loved. So my oncologist wanted to know, give me a list of your supplements, and I'm like, oh, so I'm like, you don't have time and day looking at that, and I refused. I said no. And she said, well, you're not taking some or another vitamin C. You're not taking high doses of vitamin C. I'm like, I don't know why. So she said, well, so I asked Ben. I said, my oncologist is concerned I'm taking C. He's all, well, Ben says, well, I can't advise you, Glenn, because you're taking counsel from someone else, but you know why that is? And I'm like, why is that? He says, because vitamin C protects your cells. It protects your cells, and they don't want you protecting your cells because they're trying to
Kill 'em.
kill them. Now, they'll tell you they're just trying to target this area here, but guess what? It's going through your blood. It's killing all of you because you're all made of cells, right? So, I didn't tell her. And, quite honestly, if you investigate, medical doctors do not get any training with supplements. They get maybe 3 hours. It's a freshman level course or something, that you can just show up, take the test, and boom, you're done. They do not get any training. So they're the wrong person to ask about supplementation. But if you do, they'll all say no. Why? Just to be safe. So we don't know what this stuff is. We don't train about it. We don't know anything about it. Don't take it. That's a big mistake. Big mistake, especially when you're talking about the supplementation we're talking about here, okay? Big mistake. Keep it going, because it really should be in your food. So it's like him telling you, don't eat food. 3 things that keep you alive. Air, right? We need it. Water. Food. When we really drill those down, what's in the air? It's the oxygen. What's in the water? It's the hydration. What's in the food? It's the nutrition. Okay? So we've taken the nutrition out of food. So we've got to supplement with it, and then you have it back in. Any of you been the 14ers up here in the mountains here in Colorado? Lots of air, but not a lot of oxygen, and you'll start getting altitude sickness, right? So it shows up in a lot of ways, and it's that important. It's that important. All right, how am I doing on time, Ben?
5 to 10 minutes?
Huh?
5 to 10 minutes?
5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, I better jump to the end then.
Are you
All right.
cancer-free?
Yes, I so designated, but do I look like I have cancer? Number 1.
What stage were you at, Glenn? What stage were you at?
Oh, so they get the tube in. That's where I was going with the tube. And they still didn't know how to. The CTs and the PET scans didn't show any other places of cancers, but my surgeon does a little exploratory because. So they inflated my abdomen. She tells me, and she's in there with a scope looking around, and they found nodules on my diaphragm. And I'm thinking this is my diaphragm somewhere in here. She found little nodules. She clipped one off, and yep, cancer. So stage 4 now. Now I'm stage 4.
You guys know what that means?
The end.
No, what's that mean?
That's the end. That's the
That's
last.
it.
That's a death sentence.
That's the end.
That's a death sentence because it's start for their solutions. For their solutions, the death sentence. More great news, right? Lynn and I are just holding our breath in that month in between. We don't know. Oh, let's hope we caught it early enough. All these things go through your head. Let's hope they got it wrong. Let's hope that. And we're scrutinizing their testing and like you guys, we think you got it wrong here. And da. So, but no, she stage 4'd me, and it says palliative care. That's the death sentence. The death sentence, the palliative care means we can't do anything for you except for make your life comfortable. And how do they do that? Drugs. They drug you up. So, oxycodone. Here we go. So, and then every time I go in now, they say, "Hey, you need more oxycodone?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can't believe that. That liquid is really good. I just poured in a spoon and the kids line up. And I get $10 a hit. Give me some more." They say nothing. It's oblivious to them. And I did get one to laugh at that. But it's addictive. It's really, really addictive. You don't want to be doing it.
How about for your digestion? What does it do for that?
Oh, yeah. I took it twice. But they were pushing on me. It's like, don't be afraid to take that. I'm like, I'm afraid to take that. So I just
you can have pain, right?
no. So I'm like, that's not what I want. So after the 3rd treatment, I was able to swallow a little bit. I'm like, Lynn, I can swallow a little bit. I was able to eat eggs and drink some water, and like, oh, this is good. So I'm cutting off the chemo, and she's like, and I'm like, she didn't want to. Oh my God, I want her to stand up. There's my savior. There's my angel right there. I've never felt so much love as I did when she really jumped in. I mean, because I really couldn't even think for myself. If it was up to me to even park the car at the hospital, forget it. I would have been lost. I would have blown a fuse and just, screw this and left. But she got me to my appointments on time. She found which room I needed to be in. She everything.
This hospital's working for you.
She really stepped up to the plate, and that's huge. You need somebody. You need some support. But I not only had her and the kids, Haley and Sam. Sam was doing farm work all by himself. All of a sudden, thrown in from hey, this is kind of fun. Like, Jesus, I gotta feed these pigs. It's like he's mad that he's got all this stuff, but now it's routine, right? And we've got a big season planned this year to grow fruits and vegetables, and we want to invite you guys to be a part of that, because I think it's a part of how you heal and how you understand where nutrition comes from, and we're going to teach about these supplements, but we'll also grow it in the soil, and you're going to get the double dose, all right, for all of this. So Lynn and Ben asked me to tell the whole story. So Lynn wasn't satisfied because she's scared that I'm leaving the chemo thing, because most people, those doctors are pretty convincing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm done with that. And as Lynn found this place that had an 80% success rate. 80%. Okay, you want me to tell this one, Ben?
Yeah.
I told you about it, right? So, and a lot of people wow, you went where? I said, I went to Mexico. Mexico. Oh, and my daughter went with me.
Yeah.
Not that she didn't draw any attention, right? So I'm like, are you sure you're giving me the right person to go to Mexico with?
Whatever.
But Sam had to do the farm, and she had to stay there. Like, all right, Haley, she's my. I don't know why I needed Haley. I think that was to keep me from running, because I like to go down there and just take off to the beach or something.
Keep him in check.
Your flight risk.
Because I'm like, I did not want to do that one either. I didn't want to go to Mexico. I'm like, what are you getting me into, Lynn? And I didn't study it at all. But I do trust her. But I didn't want to go. Lynn, you got a sour look on your face. So anyways, I get there, and I was delightfully surprised. In fact, I was elated, because guess what my treatments were? They were vitamins and minerals in a liquid form. It is the best form in which you can take them intravenously. And they used my port, and they hung up vitamin C and vitamin D and alpha-linic acid and 2 weeks of dripping this into my system and bypassing intestinal stuff. Why? Because it's going straight into the veins. And I would watch people move into this clinic, and they're looking kind of gray, and they're looking kind of, and with about 3 days, they're like, woo, they're perked up again. And I'm like, oh, I get this. So that is why the reason these things work so well, because this is the second best mode. This is the second. It's a liquid. It's a liquid. Not intravenously, but you can put it down your feed tube if you're so lucky. But, so I'm like, it makes sense. Holy smokes, these guys figured it out. They did that. And 80% success rate. I'm feeling great. I know I'm no longer, Mexico was the start of me no longer having to use the feed tube. So January 1st, because of an airlines mix-up, we had all my feed stock on one piece of luggage. And then that flight got canceled, and we had to go to another airlines. And so, will you get our luggage there? Yeah, your luggage will be there. But about 4 days later, my luggage shows up. So I'm 4 days without my feed stock. Mm-hmm. So I'm having to eat and by that time I said, I can do this. I can eat by mouth. So I was 100% by mouth since January 1st. Wow. 100%. So we went back 2-3 weeks ago, did another CT, because everybody wants to know, don't take my word for it that I can eat and swallow and don't jump up in the air. Don't look at me. And Robin works with me on the farm, and we do some pretty heavy work, right? There's nothing I'm restricted on anymore. But the CT did show, no new growth and slight improvement. So we're on the right track. We'll have another CT probably by next month, and by that time, the treatment that I got in Mexico would have had full course, and the medical community will declare me in remission. But now what I have to do, I still have to watch my diet. I still have to take my supplements. I got to make sure I keep great thoughts going on in my head. Ben's going to take up and talk about all of those. You want to hear what he has to say? And I just want to let you all know this is possible, and it is something you need to do for your family members, for yourself, and do it now so you don't end up with some of this stuff. And go with the recommended dosage. It's going to sound a little expensive. So for most of the time, people are going to have to spend like $5 to $6 a day on supplementation if you got nothing going on. If you're trying to get over an issue, you're going to spend a little bit more. I currently spend close to $25 a day on my supplementations. I take a bunch now. I take a bunch of pills. But $25 a day, or get back to being sick, $25 here, all the time, every day, right? The Mexico thing, $2,000 a day. $2,000 a day while I was there. So $25 or $2,000. You don't want to get into that situation because but that's even cheaper than what the medical system. If you were paying, you've seen those bills come in. If you were paying out of pocket and you didn't have insurance, the medical system was even worse. Mm-hmm. All right, so Ben, I think I've covered it all.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
See why I wanted you to hear this story. It's one thing if I talk about science and I talk about the techniques and the chemistry, but that's a real, live, living person who 4 or 5 months ago when you came in was wheeling around a big old, what was that thing, a breathing thing?
The feeder.
Yeah, it was crazy. And now he's jumping up and down, and that's what's possible. But here's the thing. We're not told that's what's possible, so it requires a little prefrontal cortex activation. It requires a little critical thinking. It requires a little investigation and a little examination. We're not being told the truth. Now, it's easy to rip on physicians. I don't do that because I have a lot of friends who are physicians, and they're good people. They got into being a physician because they want to help. But the model, the paradigm that they are falling into, or that they're hypnotized into, indoctrinated into, is not telling us the truth. The truth is, no matter what your health challenge is, you can begin to reverse it today. Today. Between cigarettes, your body heals. Between cigarettes, the time it takes between cigarettes, your lungs start to regenerate. This is what the body is. Glenn was told, you're not going to heal. You're not going to get better. That's just how it is. Now, Glenn's an extreme case. But how many people who have a thyroid problem, who have GERD, osteoporosis, accelerated aging of some kind, nothing as dramatic as perhaps Glenn, they're just told there's nothing they can do. This is living proof that no matter how horrific your diagnosis is, it's reversible. I got a text before I came in here today from a friend of mine. He says, make sure you don't make claims. And I said, I'm claiming that you guys can feel better, that anybody can feel better if they change the way they're living that caused the problem in the first place. That's my claim. What it's meant when they say you can't make claims, what they're talking about is you can't make claims about diagnoses, and you can't make claims about cures. But I'm here to tell you your diagnosis doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. If you have arthritis, your joints are breaking down. If you have heart disease, your heart is breaking down. If you have pancreatic disease, your pancreas is breaking down. All diseases are the same thing. The diagnosis is a convenience for the insurance company. It's a convenience for the protocol. It's a convenience to get you coded into the computer, but it has nothing to do with how healthy or not healthy you are. The diagnosis is irrelevant. What we have to figure out is what is causing our body to break down and then turn it around so we can build up. In the case of cancer, the only thing somebody who has cancer has to do, or somebody who's helping somebody who has cancer has to do, is figure out not how to cure the cancer. Somebody asked if Glenn is cancer-free. Nobody's cancer-free. Everybody has cancer. Cancer comes and goes. Do you know cancer comes and then disappears in everybody? So whether we have cancer or not is not the problem. If you're trying to deal with the issue, the goal is to feel better. Forget the diagnosis. Your goal is to feel better. If you're helping somebody, your goal is to help them feel better, feel stronger, have more joie de vivre, have more energy. And there is not a prescription drug on planet Earth that can do that. Temporarily at best, if you're talking about amphetamines. But for the moment, temporarily, because they all have their downside, right? So temporarily, there's no prescription drug in the world that can do what Beyond Tangy Tangerine can do. But we're not going to be told that. Now, you guys are, you're pre-qualified to understand this message, but out in the real world, this is craziness. This is absolute insanity to say, don't pay attention to the medical strategies for dealing with cancer, but instead do nutrition. Now, Glenn was being a little bit kind when he said that it was chemotherapy that saved his life, because I would present that Glenn's been supplementing for 6 years. And that's why Glenn turned this thing around so much. Now, sure, he's taking a lot more supplementation now, but supplementation and good living was part of Glenn's life. So it wasn't enough, obviously, but it was enough to get him over the hump, and it was enough to get him into a position that he was able to withstand what most people could not withstand. I talked to Glenn after his chemotherapy. Every time after his chemotherapy, I say, Glenn, how you doing? I was expecting to hear like, oh my God, I'm sick, it's terrible. Glenn's like, great. After his chemotherapy, every time, he's like, great. That's because Glenn's been taking care of himself. So if you guys are part of Youngevity now, and you're not sharing Beyond Tangy Tangerine, you're letting down your fellow men and women, your sisters and brothers. You're letting them down. This isn't about MLM and selling products. That's dessert. That's fringe benefit. That's bonus. You're going to get paid for it. But if you're holding on to Beyond Tangy Tangerine, knowing what you know, hearing Glenn, hearing me, and you're not telling people about it, at least telling them or even offering them, you're holding out. And that's not right. So I want you guys to be inspired to participate in your health and inspired to be participate in everyone's health, because what you know is at the tip of the spear. The vast majority of people have no idea what we're talking about. What you know makes you on the cutting edge. It makes you even more able to truly heal than a physician. Right? Because a physician is stuck in his way of, his indoctrinated way of understanding how the body works and how to treat the body. We here are not indoctrinated. We're understanding how the body is put together. We're understanding how the chemistry of the body works. We're understanding how, if disease is taking the road this way, we can turn it around and take the road that way, as Farmer Glenn here is living proof to. All right, so Taylor Mitchell, doctor.
And you always talk about the absorbability also.
The liquids are a key feature to the strength of these products, is the liquid. And by the way, there's a tablet Beyond Tangy Tangerine. A lot of times people ask me about the tablet. Always go liquid. The tablet's a convenience, it's handier, but the liquid goes right to work. Yes?
I feel like we're here today because of divine intervention. My dad died of stomach cancer, and his first time I was a kid. They told him to go home, he just had flu over and over and over. And by that time it was just too late. And now I have stomach problems, but I'm thinking, will that help me?
Absolutely, 100%. But Glenn did something very interesting that went under the radar in order to reverse his condition. You know what that was? Glenn didn't eat. So Glenn gave his body a food holiday. And accidentally, but he didn't put a load on the body that we all do. Now, Barbara's saying that she has some stomach distress, and the easy way to deal with stomach distress is to stop eating. Now, you can't stop eating. Obviously, you have to eat. But once you start eating again, be eating very carefully. And I'll tell you how you do that when I do my little talk. But the main point is, food costs us nutrition. When you eat food, your body has to mobilize its scant resources to digest the food, to process the food. Now, under evolutionarily appropriate conditions, which we obviously don't have, our bodies evolved to replace those nutrients through the foods we ate. We would eat live meat or recently killed meat. We would eat fresh vegetables. We would eat foods that had nutrition in it that was grown in soils that were well nutriated. Today's food's not like that. 80% of the standard American diet calories come from processed food. A processed food is a food that doesn't have the nutrients in it that are required to help you digest the food, so your body's rerouting its resources to the digestive system. Glenn was sparing his resources. His resources were not spent for a couple weeks or a month, or I don't even know how long you were eating very little, right? It's 2 months.
Fasted for over a month.
Okay? His resources, it's the best thing you can do if you have a health challenge. Now, you do need to have a certain amount of calories, but it's very little. Our caloric need as human beings is very, very low. How many of you guys have heard of the ketogenic diet? What's the secret to the ketogenic diet? The best way to eat, by the way. What's the secret to it?
Intermittent fasting.
Correct. It's low calorie. A lot of people will tell you high fat. It's not high fat. It's low calorie. The lower your daily caloric intake, the longer you live. Now, obviously, you do need to have a certain baseline amount of calories. But the real key is not the calories, it's the micronutrients. Calories come from macronutrients, protein, fats, and carbohydrates. The real key is the micronutrients, which are what you get from the Youngevity products. Micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids, collectively, we call them Mighty 90 essential nutrients. You guys probably know that. The Mighty 90 essential nutrients are the magical pixie dust that activates the food, the macronutrients. The macronutrients have the calories, but you can't utilize those calories appropriately unless you have the magical pixie dust. And that's what we all don't have unless we're supplementing. Because of the way our foods are processed and because of the soils, most of us aren't getting the magical pixie dust, but we get plenty of calories. That's not a good situation. Because the body doesn't know what to do with the calories, so it shoves them away. That's what we call our fat butts. That's what we call our body fat. It's all those calories that are being shoved into storage for when micronutrients will be present. And that's why, by the way, people lose weight when they get on the micronutrient supplement program. All right, so Glenn's awesome. Farmer Glenn, thank you so much. So inspiring. And my friend, Dr. Taylor Mitchell, who is somewhere over here, is equally awesome. She packs all that awesomeness in this beautiful package that's very young. It's hard to believe that she's only 28 years old. She's got lots of great stuff to say. She's a naturopath, part of the Youngevity family, and an expert on detoxification and mental health, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor Mitchell.
Hello. It is such an honor to speak in front of you guys. Thank you so much, Glenn, for sharing your very heartfelt story. You have been through so much, and that is so inspiring. Thank you so much, Ben, for hosting this event. This is so exciting. Yeah, so I want to talk about mental health / brain health today. And I believe that you need to talk about brain health whenever you're talking about mental health. And it's not really talked about very much. There's not a lot of answers for it, especially like in high schools and things like that. A lot of people struggle with it. And there's a lot of things that we can do to prevent it and also to support it. And so, like Glenn, actually, I had my own personal experience with pharmaceutical drugs, and then the MDs at 9 years old. I was diagnosed with something called ADHD, which really essentially is I was unable to focus. And instead of talking about brain health, the doctors just said, let's put you on pharmaceutical drugs. And I was first put on a pharmaceutical called Concerta. And then I was moved to another one called Strattera. And with Strattera, I had really bad side effects. I had suicidal thoughts and behavior that I've never had before. So then they decided to move me to Vyvanse, and I didn't have those suicidal thoughts and behavior. So they kept me on it, and then eventually increased the dose, and then eventually added Adderall to it. And then a couple of years later, I developed severe jitters and anxiety that I never had prior. And then they added Prozac just to counteract the side effects. At 15 years old, I was prescribed Vyvanse, Adderall, and Prozac. That should be, in my opinion, illegal and criminal. Like, somebody needs to go to jail for that. And I developed some pretty severe side effects, really bad constipation. My skin broke out in rashes, which is actually a side effect of these pharmaceuticals. I didn't feel like myself. I felt like my behavior and my personality was being manipulated, which it definitely was. And my grandparents actually are naturopathic doctors too, and they were really passionate about me getting off of my drugs. And so they kept telling me, eat healthy, stop taking these drugs. And so I actually did a YouTube search, and I came across some amazing doctors like Dr. Wallach, Dr. Glidden, pharmacist Ben Fuchs, and learn how to naturally support myself and to get myself off these drugs, and how to just basically become healthier without them, and learn how to focus without drugs. And I did that, and also discovered that a lot of people are struggling with many different health issues, not just ADHD. There's so much more that people struggle with. And so I dove in headfirst and was so passionate about healing the body and educating people about how they can take care of themselves, because really we need to take care of ourselves. Really, we have to. We're the only people who are responsible for our health. And so yeah, I became a naturopath, and actually I'm a traditional naturopath, and the definition of that is we are teachers as well as students, and we apply ancient philosophies and studies and the wisdom of nature to support and promote our bodies mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And so that's what I'm here to do. Today I'm talking about mental health and brain health. And our brain is an amazing organ. It actually is 2% of our weight, but does anybody know how much calories our brain uses in our body? 20 to 30%. Good, very good. So actually it holds a lot of real estate. That is amazing. It uses 30%, 20 to 30% of our body's calories and energy each day. So it's very complex. There's more connections in the human brain than there actually are stars in the sky. And so we really have to protect our brain. And one way we can do that is to make sure that we don't set ourselves up for failure when it comes to things like head trauma. With our kids playing sports like football and hockey, that actually long-term causes a lot of damage. And also soccer players, when they hit the ball on their head, our brain is like the consistency of like butter. It's very soft. It's very fragile, protected by a skull, which has a lot of sharp edges. So we need to be very careful not to hit our head, because that causes long-term mental health issues. And so I have some good news and I have some bad news for you guys. But I'm going to start with the bad news. The bad news is that we are exposed to many different toxins every single day. Every day when we breathe, we are exposed to asbestos, carbon monoxide, mold, paint fumes, gasoline fumes, agricultural, industrial chemicals. Every day we are breathing this in. And also we absorb and ingest chemicals and toxins as well whenever we take a shower. A lot of people use toxic cleaning products that they smell as well. And they also use like makeup, skincare products, cologne, perfume, deodorant, toothpaste. That actually every day adds up, and it actually affects the brain. And whenever we eat food that's not organic, it contains the chemical called glyphosate. Is anybody familiar with glyphosate? With what it does? What is glyphosate? Can anybody tell me what it is?
Weed killer.
Yeah, it's an herbicide. Essentially, what glyphosate is it's a powerful antibiotic, and it's meant to kill bugs and bacteria. And it does a very good job at that. However, our gut is 100 trillion enzymes and bacteria. That is our immune system. Our bodies depend on the health of our gut, as well as our brain, because if you know, the brain and the gut are connected through the vagus nerve. So if you're affecting the gut, you're also affecting the brain. And glyphosate, unfortunately, it also makes it to where the linings of the brain also are weakened, and so it opens up the pathway for toxins, fungus, parasites, bacteria that get into the brain. Unfortunately, psychiatrists are completely unaware of this. They have no idea. Honestly, it's sad that they ignore and don't even know about toxicity and how that affects mental health. And also water. If you drink tap water, unfortunately, the city allows heavy metals in the water. Also, there's chlorine. There's more chlorine in our tap water than there is in our swimming pool. That is terrible. There's fluoride, which is a neurotoxin. There's many things. So with that being said, yes, we are exposed to these toxins every day. However, now is the good news. We're not stuck with the brain that we have. We can change our brain for the better. We can protect ourselves. We can rid ourselves from these toxins. We can prevent them from happening. And we can even reverse damage that's been done to the brain, which is amazing. The body's self-healing, self-regenerating organ, and so is the brain. And so I'm going to talk about how to do that. And thank you guys, you're wonderful. Some ways to do that. It all starts actually with a morning routine. How many people meditate every day? Amazing. I love that. Did you know that meditation actually increases blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, like Ben was saying? We want to support that prefrontal cortex. It also is like taking a bath for your mind. It's amazing. It also relaxes your nervous system. It's an amazing thing to do. It's been used. People have been meditating for thousands of years. We should not stop. We should continue to do that. Other things we can do are exercising. Did you know that a healthy diet, along with 100 minutes of exercise a week, which is just 20 minutes a day, 5 times a week, will decrease your brain age by 10 years? That's amazing. There's also really good sleep, good quality sleep. Unfortunately, people in their teens don't go to bed until 2 a.m., and so they miss those healing cycles. Your first healing cycle is 10 p.m. Your next one is from 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, and 1 to 2. So those are the best bang for your buck. If you're going to get any sleep at all, make sure you're sleeping at those times. That's when you're going to get the most restoration, the most out of your sleep, and make sure that you're just getting a good sleep. Some things that affect us sleep are screen time. Not only does that affect our sleep, but also, did you know that looking at the screen damages the outer cortex of the brain? Did you know that? Most people have to look at the screen all day long. And so if you want to do something about that, it's really good to wear blue light glasses, because that'll actually protect yourself from some of the damage that the screen does. I love your excitement. Big smile on your face. Also a water filter. So a water filter is really good. Berkey filter is really good. If you go to Ward, actually, fill up your 5-gallon jugs. It's wonderful natural spring water. It's really good to do. Healthy relationships. So if you surround yourself with people who are really negative, don't eat healthy, don't exercise, don't have a lot of drive, unfortunately that's going to become our reality. People are very influential. We are sponges. We absorb behavior. So if you hang out with people who are mentally healthy, take care of themselves, meditate, exercise, learn new skills, eat healthy, that's gonna be your reality as well. So something just to be aware of. Also, diet. It's so important that we eat healthy food, especially if it's organic food. Food has been used as medicine for thousands of years. That's literally what it is. Food is medicine. Medicine is food. That's what Hippocrates said. So I think it's Hippocrates at least.
Hippocrates.
Yeah. So ways to increase brain health with food is healthy vegetables, healthy nuts. Walnuts are incredible for the brain. Snacking a ketogenic based diet is really, really good for the brain if you're doing it correctly. Nuts and seeds are incredible. Spices. Does anybody use a lot of spices? Yeah. Do you know spices actually used to be worth more than gold? They're so valuable. Saffron extract has been shown in many cases to be just as effective or more effective than antidepressants. Spices like sage, rosemary, and thyme are actually been shown to increase and promote memory. Turmeric is incredible for the brain. It helps remove the brain of plaque that's been shown to cause Alzheimer's disease. It also is amazing for circulation. It's great for the brain. Cinnamon is incredible for the brain. It's a powerful antioxidant. It's also really good for blood sugar support. So just using spices is so good for the brain and your entire body, because when we're actually supporting the brain, good thing, we're supporting our entire body. So did you know that garlic is a powerful antibiotic? It helps lower blood pressure. It also helps lower bad cholesterol and also decreases blood flow to the brain. So we should be eating garlic. And did you guys know that cruciferous vegetables have a really bad reputation for some reason? But they contain a chemical called sulforaphanes, which increase enzymes that lower the incidence of cancer in our body. So it's really important that we eat an abundance of fruits and vegetables. Vegetables should be most of our diet, organic. Go to the natural grocers. Go get vegetables you've never eaten before, like daikon and parsnips, and red beets are really good. If anything red, green, and purple is incredible for circulation and blood building. So make sure you're doing that as well. Meats, make sure that you are eating organic meat, because 80% of our glyphosate is used in livestock. So it's really important to eat organic meat and make sure that we're just eating healthy diet. Fruits are incredible for the brain as well. How many people eat fruit? Some people are really afraid of it and don't eat it. So it's important that you're getting your fruit in. And also something to know is what Chinese medicine and Ayurveda argue, is that eating raw vegetables can be really difficult for a digestive fire. So if you're having gut and bloating issues, if you have weak digestion or anything like that, like brain fog, to steam, cook, saute your vegetables. And also supplementation. Supplementation is essential for the brain, like Glenn was sharing, and Ben Fuchs was sharing. There's so many different supplements like EPA and DHA, essential fatty acids for the brain. L-tyrosine is incredible for the brain. And yeah, so also detoxification. Like I said, like there's toxins that we accumulate in the brain and there's ways to get rid of it. One of those really great ways is fasting. Did you know that if you fast for like 12 to 16 hours, it kicks in something called autophagy and AMPK, which is your body's cleanup crew, and it'll help rid your body of harmful proteins and toxins that damage neurons. Also, exercise is incredible for detoxification. Infrared saunas. Anybody have an infrared sauna? Those are incredible for removing toxic chemicals and fungus and parasites from the brain, from the body. So there's also some herbs and supplements. I don't want to say what particular herbs to take because I don't want people just to go take them without talking to a healthcare professional, because removing toxins from the brain can be dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, you got to set yourself up for success. And so talk to a healthcare professional. If you want to reach out to Ben Fuchs and I, we do that. We do that kind of work. And now I want to give the stage over to Ben. Thank you so much.
Stand up.
Yeah, still going.
Guys, I had all these notes. I put them. I'm gonna wing it.
Were they on cards?
They were on. If you see a red piece of paper, I have all these things I want to say. So I'm just gonna have to wing it here. I wanted to talk about the business side of things. I have been in the health business for many years, and I'm here to tell you there's a way that you can generate an income by helping people. But you got to kind of know a few ground rules. And one of them involves this stuff right here. And I hope I have enough for everybody. Did Tom bring any?
I don't know.
So how many of you have not ever used Beyond Tangy Tangerine? Never. Raise your hand really high. Really high. 1, 2, 3. Okay, can you hand these off to people who have raising their hands? So the ones who have used Beyond Tangy Tangerine, I have some extra, but you may have to settle for a nightly essence or a box of keto bars, because I did not anticipate so many people coming. But I'm very happy that you guys did. So we have this idea that in order to be an advisor to somebody about their health, we have to understand a lot about science. We have to understand a lot about medicine. We have to understand a lot about health. It's not true. As I alluded to before, it doesn't matter what your diagnosis is. The body is like a business. How many of you guys are in business? Okay? What is the most important key performance index or marker for a healthy business? It's called the, say it louder.
Bottom line.
It's called the bottom line, right? It doesn't matter how much you're spending in your business. It doesn't matter how much you're making in your business. You could be making $1 million a year, but if you're spending $1,001 a year, that's not a very good business, right? But you could be making $10 a year, but if you're spending only $6, that's a much better business than somebody who's making $1 million and spending $1,000,001, right? It doesn't matter what you're making or spending. It matters your bottom line. In a business, you're always making money and you're always spending money. That doesn't matter how much you may spend. You want to know what's left over. That's called the bottom line, right? Well, guess what? The body is like a business. In a business, you're either in the red or in the black. If you're in the red, you're losing money. If you're in the black, you're making money, right? The bottom line, you want your bottom line to be in the black. The body's like a business. It doesn't matter how much you're spending. It doesn't matter how much nutrients you're expending. It doesn't matter how fast your body is breaking down. It matters what's left over at the end of the day, because when you're in the red, you're spending, you're breaking down faster than you're building or you're intaking. So if you have diabetes, if you have osteoporosis, if you just don't feel good, if you have cancer, if you have whatever it is that you want to label your health challenge, all it means is Your body's in the red. It's negative. You got a lousy business. You got a lousy body business. It doesn't matter if you call it multiple sclerosis. It doesn't matter if you call it arthritis. It doesn't matter if you call it cancer. It matters that you're in the red. You guys get how this simplifies everything. You don't need to know what causes cancer. You don't need to know what causes multiple sclerosis. You don't need to know what causes osteoporosis. You don't need to know about what causes arthritis. You don't have to be a scientist. You just have to know that your job is to build, put more in than is coming out. What do we call illness? We call it dis-ease. Because the body is out of ease. It's out of ease because it feels like it's dying. It's in duress. People tell you they don't know what causes cancer. Actually, before I even say that, let me tell you this. There's no such thing as cancer. There's no such thing as stomach cancer. There's no such thing as breast cancer. Anybody want to throw something at me? Anybody want to argue? There's no such thing as prostate cancer. There's no such thing as skin cancer. There is prostate cell cancer. There is breast cell cancer. There's thyroid cell cancer. There is pancreatic cell cancer. There's cellular cancer. Cancer is a cellular phenomenon. Disease is a cellular phenomenon. We get diverted by the organ and by the structure, and so of course it makes sense. I'm just going to take the organ out. My gallbladder's causing a problem, I'm just going to take it out. No problem. No gallbladder, no problem. Right? Because we think the problem is at the level of the gallbladder. We don't realize that when we're sick at the level of the cell. All disease is cell disease. All of it. And this is a dirty little secret that medicine doesn't want us to know. You know why? Because there's nothing in the doctor's magical bag of tricks that can address the cell. They can poison the cell. They can radiate the cell. They can X-ray the cell. They can electrocute the cell. And they can excise the cell, remove the cell. But they cannot give a cell what it needs. But no problem. We can do that. There's only 3 things that go wrong with a cell that ultimately will go wrong with the body. Disease, what we call disease, is cells that are not getting their needs met. The good news is there's only 3 things a cell needs. And you don't have to be a doctor to know how to deal with this. Number 1, a cell needs to eat. It needs nutrition. Number 2, a cell needs oxygen. It needs to breathe. And number 3, it needs a clean place to do its work. And that's it. If you can figure out how to feed a cell, how to breathe a cell, how to keep the cell clean, there's no health challenge that will not be reversed. None. From stage 4 cancer to acne. From the most benign discomfort or cosmetic or superficial illness to the most deadly. Every single health challenge will reverse if you start to replace nutrients, make sure there's oxygen in the area, and keep the system clean. Now, keeping the system clean in our culture is a little bit difficult because we live in a polluted environment, which is one reason why the less you eat, the longer you live. One of the most important things you could do to keep your system clean is to move. All disease is cell disease, but all cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. Blood that's clogged, blood that's thick, blood that is sludgy. Do you guys remember Cleveland in the 1970s? Remember, you lived there? Remember Lake Erie? Or the mistake by the lake, right? Catch fire. Or the Cayuga River, right? They've cleaned it up since. That's what our blood looks like after 70 or 80 years of living on planet Earth in the United States of America. It looks like Lake Cayuga in the 1970s. Literally, there's clots and there's clogs and there's fibers and there's pus and there's toxicity. And all of this keeps the blood from being able to deliver oxygen and nutrients and keep the system clean, which means moving your blood is job number 1. There's lots of ways to do that. Number 1, moving your body. Get a rebounder, jumping up and down on a rebounder. If you feel like you're catching a cold, get a rebounder, start jumping up and down on it, and you're very likely to move the cold germs through your immune system, your lymphatic system, so effectively you won't even get sick. Moving your body is critical. Another great way to move your body helps you handle point number 2, which is oxygen, and that's breathing. When you breathe, your diaphragm acts like a pump, and it actually will support your heart for people with heart disease or who don't want to get heart disease. Just breathing diaphragmatically, where the diaphragm goes down on your inhale and up on your exhale will pump blood through your circulatory system and also support your heart. Another great way to support circulation, to keep the blood moving effectively as well as it should, is to be hydrated, to make sure you're drinking water. Have you noticed the first thing in the morning you don't feel a little sluggish? Chances are pretty good your blood is concentrated. If you go into the bathroom a couple times in the middle of the night, you haven't replaced the hydration, your blood is going to be concentrated. This is especially known by diabetics. How many diabetics here? Nobody? Okay, that's a whole other story. We'll talk about that here in a second. Diabetes is a disease that's marked by high blood sugar. What does high blood sugar mean? It means high blood sugar concentration. The sugar is concentrated in your blood. Drinking water is the best thing you could do to dilute your blood sugar. So drinking water is another important strategy. And as we'll talk about here in a moment, there's wonderful nutritional strategies for keeping the system clean, for detoxification, and for thinning the blood. This is all called blood thinning. And by the way, this current health challenge that shall remain nameless, because I don't even want to give it credibility, the one everybody's talking about the last couple of years.
Baltimore?
What's that? Baltimore. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a blood disease. The reason why people can't, some people suffer from, get symptomatic much more than others, is because their blood is stickier and sludgier. It's not a respiratory disease. It's a blood disease. So keeping your blood clean is also very important for supporting your immune system in general. All right. The second thing is oxygenation. And Taylor touched on this. She alluded to this idea of meditation. I have personally had a meditation practice for my whole adult life. And if you want to pick one thing to do that doesn't involve nutritional supplementation to improve your health, and even more important than nutritional supplementation, is to figure out how to still this mind. Now, you're not going to be able to do it right away. For those of you who meditate, you know what I'm talking about. Even after you've been meditating for a long time, it's hard to still the mind. But it'll make it easier for you to still the mind when life comes. We call it a meditation practice because it's practicing for real life. When you meditate, when you practice meditation, you learn how to adjust your mind so it doesn't run out of control. Meditation also is a great way to practice breathing. In fact, that's one of the main ways that people fall into a meditative state is by watching the breath. It turns out when you watch a part of the body, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest nervous system. You can even think about it with your hand. If you just pay attention to your hand or your fingers right now or your foot, your body will start to slow. If you can't sleep at night, start paying attention to a body rhythm or even just a body part, and you'll find yourself getting drowsy. I can already see you guys are doing it right now. We live our lives mentally. We don't live somatically. We don't live in our bodies, we live in our minds. And by living in our minds, we ignore the wisdom of our bodies. The body is here now. The mind is there and there, past and future, future and past. The body is here now, so it's giving you real-time information about what's happening. How many of you guys like Snickers bars? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Get some water.
Milky Way guy.
What'd you get? So the next time, who raised their hand? All right, some honest people here. Next time you get your Snickers bar, if you ever do again, grab your Snickers bar and unwrap it really slowly. And then you look at that chocolatey goodness and bring it up to your mouth and listen very closely. And you'll hear a voice go, no. Just like that. Just like that, right? You've heard it. You've heard it. You've heard it. That's the body's wisdom. Of course, then the brain gets in the way and says, screw that. I'm eating the Snickers bar, right? The body has this wisdom. It'll tell you to turn left or turn right. It'll tell you to have the turkey sandwich or the tuna sandwich. It will tell you to talk to this person or stay away from this person. We want to learn to tap into our body, into our somatic wisdom. Soma means the body. Soma means the body. So meditation puts you back into your body, into real time, and it's meditation practice when you're doing it at home, but it's so handy in life. It's so amazingly handy when the crap hits the fan to be able to return to this slow, still state. But as far as breathing goes, it's a great way to naturally activate diaphragmatic breathing. Because when you meditate and you get into the appropriate state, and sometimes it takes years of doing it before you get into that appropriate state, you're activating what's called the rest and digest nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is your nervous system that's associated with peace, with rest, with love, with safety, with gratitude, with all the good stuff in life. It is opposed by the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight nervous system. It's your emergency nervous system. And where do you think most of us spend most of our time? Sympathetic, exactly. What will happen is, as you continue your meditation practice, you will naturally fall into a parasympathetic state. And that's the state where the body is healed. In fact, the parasympathetic state can be thought of as the love state, and the sympathetic state can be thought of as the fear state. And those are the two primal emotions, fear and love. And neurologically speaking, it's the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The fear, how many of you guys have heard false evidence appearing real? Let me hear that acronym, false evidence appearing real. Because fear is the lie. Fear says that you're not okay. Most of us go through our lives feeling not okay. And not only do we go through our lives feeling not okay, but our cells go through their lives feeling not okay. So when we can figure out how to make the body feel okay, that will make the cells feel okay. And this is where the mind-body connection comes in, is you have to understand how much your cells, and thereby your organs and your tissues, are affected by your perspectives on life. So taking yourself away from the fear mode into the thrival mode or the love mode, there's a lot of ways to do it, but meditation is one of the best, or listening to the body. Because you know what? The body is okay in every moment. It's only the mind that will say it's not okay because this is going to happen in the future or this happened in the past. Every moment the body thinks it's okay, and the more you can harmonize or you can resonate with that soma, the more you will feel okay. Then there's the third aspect, which is what we're here to talk about, and that's nutrition. The problem with nutrition is because we don't understand the basics, we fall for everything. And then we get disappointed. And then we get people who are involved in standard care think it's silly, or they think it's a joke, or they think that you're not capable of handling it yourself. And it's all because we don't understand the basics of how the body is put together from a nutritional standpoint. It's not that complicated. One of the things we pharmacists do is we learn how to take complicated information about health and about medicine and about drugs and chemistry and herbs and vitamins, and we learn how to talk about it in a way that the average person can understand. And so I do that with nutrition. I've done it with nutrition for a long time because I realized at a very young age, when I was in pharmacy school, that this drug model of helping the body wasn't really helping people. We got more drugs than ever before, and we're sicker than ever before. And most of my time in pharmacy school was spent studying side effects and toxicities and how you mitigate toxicities and how you make drugs that don't have toxicity or have less toxicities, how you dose so you don't have toxicities. Most of the time in pharmacy school we're spending trying to understand or mitigate or somehow address the problem with toxicity. So I left pharmacy school with this thing in my head. Why am I studying poison? Why am I trying to help people with poison? But something else we learn in pharmacy school that a lot of people don't realize is we study nutrition. Except we don't study nutrition in pharmacy school like a doctor studies it. We don't study nutrition like a nutritionist studies it, or a naturopath, or a chef, or anybody else who studies nutrition. They study it in their specialty. I study it, or pharmacists study it, like a pharmacist, which means we study the medicinal, the healing, the therapeutic properties of vitamins, of minerals, of amino acids and fatty acids. And what's more, we study diseases as nutritional deficiency issues. We study the relationship between essential fatty acid deficiency and skin problems, between B vitamin deficiency and heart problems, between vitamin C deficiency and bone problems. So I left pharmacy school with this understanding of toxicity and with this understanding of how you can use nutrition to really take care of, not only to heal the body and take care of it, but to address deficiency states that are causing the problems in the first place. And you better believe I made myself a hardcore nutritionist because I wanted to help people. That's why I got to be a pharmacist. And I remember in 1980, I graduated in 86. So I was, my first job was at Kmart Pharmacy. Some of you guys have heard this story. Not totally proud of that, but that's the only job I could get. Because I worked in the lab while I was in pharmacy school. I never worked in a pharmacy. So my first job was at Kmart, and people would come in for their medication, and I would start suggesting things to people so that they could take their medication. If they came in, they had a cold, I would say, maybe you want some vitamin C with that antibiotic. Or if they had eczema, I'd say, maybe some essential fatty acids with that steroid cream. Or that acne, I'd say, zinc might help your skin a little bit. Why don't you take that with your Accutane? And sure enough, people get better. They would start to notice results that were far superior to the results they got when they were just taking the drugs. So me being a cocky little kid, I decided instead of suggesting supplements to patients with their medication, I started suggesting supplements instead of their medication. And of course, Kmart Pharmacy wasn't exactly thrilled with pharmacist Ben. And I was not, it was in short order, I was escorted out. And Ken Osier, the district manager, looks at me and goes, Ben, you're just not cut out to be Kmart material. Which I thought was very ironic. But anyway, I started my own pharmacy and I started to talk about nutrition. This was the 1980s and the 1990s, early 1990s, and you were still a health nut if you talked about nutrition and you talked about how you can use nutrients to not just support your drugs, but to replace your drugs. And so, long story short, I got involved with Dr. Wallach and met him, and I've been involved with Youngevity, as I said, ever since 1998. So today what I do is I help people understand nutrition on my radio show, my presentations, here in my business. I have a pharmacy downstairs. So I'm just going to cut to the chase and give you a little tidbit about how you can simplify this vast world of nutrition. And I have a YouTube video, which you guys may have seen, called The 8 Chapters of Good Nutrition, where I talk a lot about this. It's pretty old at this point, but generally the idea is you have two kinds of nutrients. You got big nutrients, macro, protein, fats, carbohydrates. You got small nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids and fatty acids. They're both important, but we get far too many of the macronutrients and nowhere near enough of the micronutrients, and this is why supplementation is so darn important. Now, you can supplement with the macronutrients. For example, protein. Our protein needs are probably overstated, but you do need to have some kind of quality protein, and Youngevity has a product called Fit Shake, which is a quality protein you can get. I like whey. I think that's the most quality protein. Egg protein is also a quality protein. In fact, egg and whey are the two most quality proteins that you can get. You don't want to cook your protein. You want to keep your protein as uncooked as possible, and of course you have to cook your meat, but don't overcook your meat, or your fish for that matter. Try to eat your eggs raw, if you guys can handle that. Anybody ever have raw eggs? They're quite delicious. You put them in, you don't want to do it by themselves, but you put them in with a smoothie. They're very tasty. And by the way, eggs are, here's a trivia question. Give away a box.
Perfect food.
Yes, that's true. But why are eggs nature's perfect food? And they are the perfect food.
Absorbability.
Close.
You're a cell.
Say it louder. Who said
You're a
it?
cell.
Bingo.
They're what? A cell.
Remember how we talked about the cell? It's all about the cell. We're deluded by organs. We see organs and we see tissues, but it's really coming from the cell. And so an organ or a tissue can only be as healthy as a cell. It's all about the cell, and we don't get taught this, and it's unfortunate because a cell is so unbelievable that you'd be floored, and you have to pick your jaw up off the ground if you really understood what a cell is, because we see a cell from biology class, the circle, right? That's not a cell. That's like a schematic in a cross-section. A cell is a blob. It's a little blob of jelly that's so small you can't see it. But within that little blob of jelly, you have millions of working parts embedded. And these millions of working parts are constantly being broken down and rebuilt with an intelligence that nobody can possibly begin to understand. And within that little blob of jelly that's so small you can't see it, you have 6 feet of genetic material. You have so much genetic material in your body that if you stretched it end to end, it would go to the sun and back 60 times.
Wow.
In one body. You have this little blob of jelly. It has a skeleton. And that skeleton is hollow. And because it's hollow, it can transmit electrical energy to such a high degree that there are anesthesiologists, one in particular, that believe that's where consciousness rests, is in the quantum fluctuations that are occurring in the hollow of a skeleton that's existing in a blob of jelly that's so small you can't even see it. And this little blob of jelly has structures in it that are elaborate on their own. They're called substructures or suborganelles. And these little structures act like miniature versions of a stomach, miniature versions of a pancreas, miniature versions of a brain, miniature versions. The cell's got all the things we have, but in miniature. Not in miniature, in quantumture, at such a small scale, and you have 100 trillion of those cells. And the good news is, you don't have to do anything except take care of one. Because if you take care of one cell, you're going to take care of all the cells. If you give a cell what it needs, all the cells will benefit. And the reason eggs are so important, and nature's perfect food, as somebody said, is because eggs are an egg cell. An egg is a cell. We call it an egg, but it's really an egg cell. And so it has everything you need for a cell, because it is a cell. It's nature's perfect food in the perfect balance. And woe to any healthcare professional that tells you not to eat eggs. Now, if you cook eggs, you do lose some of that nutritional value. Congratulations. If you cook eggs, you do lose some nutritional value, which is why you want to do it raw or poached or soft boiled. The second macro chapter, if you will, macronutritional chapter is fats. I mean, you guys remember the 80s and the fat-free and 90s. Fat-free, 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 right? Well, as it turns out, fats are a problem. Because when you cook a fat or you process a fat, you break it down. And when you break it down, you create very dangerous compounds that are some of the most powerful cancer-causing compounds that we have. They're called lipid peroxides. And these molecules are not only very, very carcinogenic, but they're very active. They're also very pro-inflammatory, these fats, and they especially inflame the intestine. Have you noticed there's an epidemic of leaky gut syndrome? That's the number one way why the blood gets dirty, by the way, is leaky gut. Yes, ma'am. Everybody has it pretty much, unless they're really taking care of themselves. And one of the main reasons is fried and processed fats. French fries and potato chips and pizza and donuts and all the kinds of foods we eat. You guys ever watch the Food Channel? I don't know why I watch this thing, but there are these shows where they show you every possible concoction you could put in a deep fryer and sell it with sugar on top and sell on the carnival. And they do everything in there. Deep fried bacon, deep fried ice cream, deep fried Snickers bars, deep fried French toast.
Twinkies.
Because we need fat. Human beings need fat, but we need the right kind of fat. We need fat that's alive. Fat that's alive, there's lots of fats that are alive, but there's two in particular, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and those are said to be essential fats. And essential fats, or essential fatty acids more appropriately, EFAs, are nature's aspirin. They're nature's natural anti-inflammatories. And they're nature's natural wound healers. Between incomplete wound healing, or between deficiencies in essential fatty acids, omega-6 and omega-3 they call them, you have all your inflammatory problems and all your problems healing and regenerating. And essential fatty acids, as we'll talk about here in a second, are very easy to get, but most people don't. And then the third category is the carbohydrates. You need the fats, you need the protein, you could do without the carbohydrates. Nonetheless, vegetables, as Dr. Mitchell was talking about, are critical because there's components in vegetables. Vegetables are a great source of carbohydrates that act to help us withstand the environment, adapt to the environment. We call them what? These molecules that help us adapt to the environment.
Adaptogens.
Adaptogens, correct. And adaptogens are found in fruits and vegetables. Adaptogens, as the name implies, help us deal with stress, help us deal with the environment. Now, adaptogens are a little bit tricky to get from vegetables because adaptogens are stuck to the vegetable, and your digestive system has to really be working or firing on all cylinders in order to be able to extract those adaptogens, which is why juicing can be really helpful. And if you want to do one thing for your health, aside from get on the Youngevity supplements and exercise and meditate and all these other things we talked about, is get a Vitamix and make fresh veggie juices every day. You'll get the adaptogens, you'll get the pigments. I'm in the skin business, as many of you guys know. One of the best things you can do to protect your skin from the sun and to protect your skin from toxicity in the air is the pigments and the adaptogens in vegetables. As we get older, we don't absorb them as effectively, so using things to help you absorb them can be very important. And those are your macronutrients, your protein, fats, and carbs. Obviously, that's very, very succinct. The micronutrients, those are the ones that you can pound inside your body without having an issue. You can't pound protein inside your body because it's a big structure and it's hard for the body to process. You can't pound fat into your body because it's a big structure and it's hard for the body to process. And carbohydrates wreak havoc on the blood sugar system. But you can pound the micronutrients, and what's more, the micronutrients will help your body process the macronutrients. You'll get more bang from your buck for your protein, fats, and carbohydrates if you do your micronutrients. This is why all that, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine you guys have there, the best time to do it is with your meals. It will help you process your foods more effectively. In fact, it will replace some of the nutrients that should be in the foods. So the micronutrients you can take lots of. Do you have a question, Laura?
What about enzymes?
That's a whole other thing. Yeah, and enzymes are really fascinating. You guys have all heard the term enzymes, right? I'm going to take a quick digression here, just since you brought that up. You've all heard the term enzymes. And I don't expect you to give me an accurate answer necessarily, because unless you're a nutritionist or scientist. What is an enzyme? The Pac-Man?
Yeah.
Kind of. That's a digestive enzyme you're thinking of. An enzyme is a chemical, a molecule, that has two holes in it, and each hole fits another chemical. And by virtue of each chemical sitting in these holes, they're pulled together, and a reaction can happen. Enzymes are said to be catalysts, and they speed up the rate of chemistry that happens in your body. A will meet B. Chemistry is just A plus B equals C. That's all chemistry is. People are freaked out about chemistry. Don't get freaked out. It's just, to be a little bit more specific, it's Tinker Toys. Tinker Toy A, any chemists in this room? Yes? Okay.
I've described it exactly
Okay.
like
It's Tinker Toy A plus Tinker Toy B equals Tinker Toy C. That's all chemistry is. Don't be overwhelmed by it. It's just shapes. It's just shape-shifting. And shapes, Tinker Toy A and Tinker Toy B will eventually hit each other randomly. You know, a broken clock is right twice a day. Eventually they'll hit each other. But what an enzyme does is it increases the likelihood of them hitting each other by having Tinker Toy A fit into a space and Tinker Toy B fitting into a space, pulling them together. Does that make sense? That's said to be catalysis, a catalyst. You think of a matchmaker, you know, a man and a woman, they'll meet each other eventually, but a matchmaker can pull them together. That's what an enzyme is. It's a matchmaker. The kind of enzymes most of us think about is digestive enzymes. And those pull chemicals from food with chemicals in your body or in your stomach to help you digest your food. And those are one kind of enzyme, but the most important enzymes in the body are called metabolic enzymes. And these are enzymes that run our chemistry. Aging, the most important marker for aging is poor enzyme function, and ultimately when we're dead, our enzymes don't function at all. Enzymes are the literal molecules of life. There'd be no molecules, there'd be no life without these molecules. The reason this is important, to bring back to Laura's point, is because you got these two kinds of enzymes. You've got metabolic enzymes that run the chemistry of your body. You've got digestive enzymes that digest your food, and they're interchangeable. So that when you run out of digestive enzymes, your metabolic enzymes can come and replace them. But you got a problem then, right? Now you don't have enough metabolic enzymes. So you're running low on your enzymes that run your chemistry. So what's the solution? The solution is the third kind of enzymes, which are food enzymes. Enzymes that are found in fresh vegetables, enzymes that are found in fresh eggs, enzymes that are found in fresh dairy, enzymes that are found in steak tartare, and it has to be steak tartare. The more enzymes you ingest from food, the more your body will be able to spare its own metabolic enzymes to fight cancer, or to anti-age, or to build bone, or do all the things that we want. And once again, it comes down to, if we don't take care of how we eat, the body is going to pay the price. There's no way to avoid it. But conversely, if we do pay attention to what we eat, we can turn whatever health challenge we have, we can begin to turn it around. And so food enzymes are a great way to spare your enzymes, and also for digestion, for digestive enzymes. Your body can use food enzymes for digestion. You can also use supplemental enzymes, and I highly recommend them. And the neat thing about supplemental enzymes, digestive enzymes, you guys all know about the ultimate enzymes, or those of you who are in Youngevity know about the ultimate enzymes. Now you know, because enzymes are interchangeable, You can increase your metabolism, improve your metabolism by your biochemistry with digestive enzymes taken on an empty stomach. Digestive enzymes taken on an empty stomach are anti-inflammatory. They're great after surgery. And it could be facial surgery, plastic surgery, it could be a skin peel, it could be major surgery. They're great for back pain, they're great for dental pain. And they're just great metabolic rever-uppers. And by the way, remember I was talking about the bottom line earlier? The chemical name for the bottom line, the real name for the bottom line is, anybody know? No. Metabolism. Metabolism, the bottom line, and I forgot to mention this, in the red, when your body's breaking down, that's called catabolism. And when your body is building up, that's called anabolism. You ever hear of anabolic steroids? Our job as healthcare, if we're taking care of somebody or for our own bodies, is to figure out how to become net anabolic. That's what in the black means. Digestive enzymes, there's lots of ways to get digestive enzymes. I like our ultimate enzymes, but whatever kind of enzyme supplementation you use for the digestive system, that is, you always want to make sure you have apple cider vinegar, noni juice, aloe vera juice, something acidic to activate the enzymes. Enzymes are activated by acid. Did you know more people have low stomach acid than high stomach acid? This is a whole other interesting story considering the best-selling over-the-counter drugs are antacids, right? All right, so thank you for bringing that up. Let's talk about real quickly about the vitamins, the minerals, and then the what I call the accessory nutrients. So you got two kinds of vitamins: water-soluble vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins. The watery vitamins you pee out, you urinate them out. Which is why if you're drinking a lot of water, which everybody does now, right? You want to make sure you're replacing those water-soluble vitamins with Beyond Tangy Tangerine. The more water you drink, the more water-soluble nutrients you need because you're urinating them out. It's great to drink water, but make sure that you're replacing the water-soluble vitamins, especially the B complex and vitamin C. The B complex are your energy vitamins. In fact, the B complex, you guys heard that the B complex are your energy vitamins? The reason they're your energy vitamins is because the B vitamins act like a little battery that turns on enzymes. In fact, you may have heard the term coenzyme. The B vitamins are coenzymes. They turn on enzymes. They act like a little battery that allows the enzymes to work more efficiently, and this is why they're said to be the energy or the stress management vitamins. And because of this problem with us losing them on a regular basis, plus the problem of processed foods, the B vitamins are found in living foods. They're not found in processed foods unless they're replaced. Many people are B vitamin deficient. B vitamin deficiency will cause you to feel like you don't want to do anything. B vitamin deficiency will cause mental health problems. Dementia, for example. B vitamin deficiencies will cause digestive health issues. Chronic diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome. B vitamin deficiencies are related to heart disease and diabetes. B vitamin deficiencies will cause menstrual problems in women, reproductive problems, hot flashes. B vitamin deficiencies will cause red, sensitive skin. You ever hear people talk about how sensitive their skin is? They can't use any products. They go out in the sun and they immediately burn. Classic sign of vitamin B3 deficiency. And on top of all that, the B vitamins are very difficult to get in the standard American diet unless you're eating living foods and unless you're supplementing with Beyond Tangy Tangerine. In fact, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, as many of you guys know, works quickly. And one of the main reasons it works quickly is because it's delivering high doses of the B vitamins, among other things. The second water-soluble vitamin is so important for us as human beings, and so anti-aging, and so anti-cancer, and so anabolic, and so skin-friendly, and everything else every system in the body benefits from this stuff. And that's, of course, vitamin C. Who knows the disease caused by vitamin C deficiency?
Scurvy.
So we don't have scurvy anymore, right? What is scurvy, by the way? Anybody know?
It's a vitamin C deficiency.
That's not what it is. That's what causes it. Smart Alec.
Sores, skin disease, blood disease.
Sores, skin diseases, blood diseases, vasculature diseases, osteoporosis, gum disease, your teeth start to fall out. Scurvy is a horrible disease, make no mistake about it, and it's a good thing we don't have it anymore. Up until the 1600s, 1500s or 1600s, it was a common way that people died. They died of scurvy. And then a guy sailor, a doctor on a ship, the British. You guys have all heard the story, right? I don't need to tell the story. So,
Tell the story, Aaron.
you want to hear the story? So the British were a great naval empire, but they had a problem in that all the sailors were getting scurvy because they were missing the foods that contain the anti-scurvy nutrients, which Dr. James Lind, who's a British doctor, noticed that if he gave these sailors citrus fruits, they wouldn't get scurvy. And that actually the British Empire became this great naval empire because they discovered that they could prevent this horrible disease that was occurring to all the other navies, with the exception of the Chinese Navy, as it turns out, around the world. And so up until, that was about the 1500s, I think, and then up until about the 1900s, we didn't really know what did it. We didn't realize that what was in the citrus, what was in the limes, they call them limeys, you probably heard that term, they call them limeys. What was in the limes that Dr. Lind was giving his sailors that was curing scurvy? And then around the turn of the 20th century, the greatest biochemist who ever lived, Albert St. George, he figured out that there was this molecule in vitamins or in citrus fruits that could cure scurvy, and he named this molecule A, meaning without, scorbic, meaning scurvy, acid. Ascorbic acid, without scurvy. It was acidic, so they named it ascorbic acid. It turns out this little tiny bit of ascorbic acid will prevent scurvy. And you don't need very much. And that's why if you look on your vitamin bottle, your standard multivitamin bottle that has the RDAs, who knows what the RDAs stand for? The ridiculous deprivation allowance. Okay? Because it's designed to keep you ridiculously deprived from optimal health, but it's there to keep you from getting scurvy. So you don't get scurvy because you have 60 milligrams of vitamin C, but you don't have optimal health. And you say, that's no big deal because we don't have scurvy anymore, right? Wrong. We do have scurvy. Except we call it subclinical scurvy. Meaning it's not bad enough that you go to the hospital, it's not bad enough that you go to the doctor, it's not bad enough that you have to have some kind of prescription or drug protocol applied to it. It's just that you feel lousy, or you have a liver problem, or you have heart disease, or you have aneurysms or strokes, or you have little nicks in your blood vessels that cholesterol is patching up, or perhaps you have gum disease, gingivitis. Today, we have subclinical scurvy, which has a synonym. The synonym for subclinical scurvy is aging. Aging, and all the signs of aging, whether we're talking heart disease or whether we're talking osteoporosis, or whether we're talking arthritis, or whether we're talking about the hunched over appearance that people get as they get older, or whether we're talking about wrinkles, all of these are signs of scurvy, of subclinical scurvy. How many of you guys have seen the bodies exhibit? You know what I'm talking about? See it?
Yeah.
The bodies exhibit, right?
Yeah.
You look at the bodies exhibit, and you don't know if it's a Japanese or black person or white person, or you don't know the details of that person. You know if that person's attractive or not attractive. You don't know the details, but you know it's a person, right? Because you can see this part of the body, I call it the flesh robot. You can see that that's a person. That's the bulk of what we are. That whole body at the bodies exhibit is the muscle tissue and the connective tissue. And that's what composes all of us. Underneath, we're the flesh robot. And the flesh robot is candy-coated with something called epithelial tissue, and that's our skin. And then it's hardwired with electricity, and that's called nervous tissue. But the bulk of the body is the connective tissue and the muscle tissue. The connective tissue is the part that feeds the muscle tissue. The connective tissue is the part that feeds the nervous tissue. The connective tissue is the part that feeds the epithelial tissue. The connective tissue feeds all of the cells. All disease is cell disease. We're trying to reverse the disease process by feeding the cells. It all comes through the connective tissue. The connective tissue is the womb to the cell's baby. The cell is like a fetus, and the connective tissue is the womb. In fact, we have a Latin term for connective tissue. Anybody know what that is? You definitely know what it is. You just maybe never told you this way. The Latin term for the connective tissue is the matrix. Matrix means mother in Latin. Our connective tissue matrix is the mother to all of our cells. Does that make... Are you thinking maybe I want to start working with my connective tissue? Are you thinking maybe I want to start building my connective tissue? All disease is cell disease. All cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. The blood is connective tissue, liquid connective tissue. The bone is connective tissue. The fascia is connective tissue. The joints are connective tissue. And the connective tissue is feeding all of the cells of the body. There's one nutrient that is said to be the rate-limiting step in the production of connective tissue. Do you think that's a nutrient you want to be using on a regular basis?
Yes.
Without this nutrient, you can't make connective tissue. This nutrient is the key that turns on the machinery of the connective tissue. I think I know you.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Nice to see you. It's been a long time.
It has.
Wow. Tell me your
Early
name.
90s. Doe.
Doe. Very nice to see you.
Bad.
Yes. We'll talk afterwards. So the connective tissue is this nutrient is the key that turns on the machine of connective tissue. You want to know what that nutrient is?
Yes.
Okay, forget it.
Yes.
I'll tell James later.
Don't make me choke you.
What is it? Do you want to know?
Yes.
Vitamin C. Woo! Without vitamin C, you can't make connective tissue. This is why all the things we hate about aging are related to vitamin C deficiency. And vitamin C is everywhere, but the problem is because of the ridiculous deprivation allowance, we think all we need is 60 milligrams of vitamin C when you need grams of vitamin C. Just to give you a little example, human beings need vitamin C because we can't make it. That's what a vitamin is. It's a substance that we can't make for the most part. There's a couple that can, but for the most part, a vitamin is defined as something you can't make. But other animals can make vitamin C.
What?
Squirrels make vitamin C, dogs make vitamin C, cats make vitamin C. All other animals except for human beings, gorillas, and there's a certain kind of guinea pig, and the fruit bat, interestingly. But all other animals make vitamin C, but here's the thing. Grams of it. A goat will make 2 or 3 grams of vitamin C just to conduct its daily business, and they want a human being to have 60 milligrams. 60 milligrams is 1/25 of what a goat makes every day. Right? And here's the kicker. When the goat is under stress, it makes double or triple or quadruple the vitamin C, because vitamin C helps the body deal with stresses. And that's why I told Glenn, Glenn asked me, should I take vitamin C? And I said, and this is really true for all of you, if somebody's working with a doctor, it's really important that you respect that relationship. Even if you disagree with what the doctor's saying, if somebody's working with a doctor, you have to respect that relationship. And I did. I said that to Glenn. I said, you're working with a physician, I need to respect that relationship. But I can tell you this, vitamin C helps the body deal with stresses, all stresses, including the massive stress of chemotherapy, which is why they tell you not to use vitamin C. Because their job is to stress the cell. Their job is to make sure that the cell is subject to the chemotherapy. Now, whether I don't want to get into the philosophy of that, but the point is that the nutrients are there to protect you. And vitamin C is one of the major protecting substances. And it's so tragic to me, as cheap as vitamin C is, it's so tragic to me that we would have to deal with a vitamin C deficiency, mostly based on our buying into what we're told, the medical paradigm. Then there's the fatty nutrients. The fatty nutrients or fatty vitamins are a little bit different because your body can store those. The watery ones help you deal with the vicissitudes, the ups and downs of life. Life has ups and downs in it, and water-soluble nutrients help us deal with that, adapt to that, whether by virtue of building the connective tissue or by the B vitamins acting as coenzymes. The fatty nutrients are for building, for long-term fatty vitamins. Vitamins A, vitamins D, vitamins E, and vitamins K, and you don't urinate them out, but they're hard to get, especially if you're dealing with digestive problems. So supplementing with these nutrients becomes important, especially for anti-aging and for helping deal with all the things that happen to us as we get older and the body starts to break down. Vitamin A for building bone, vitamin A for the skin. How many of you guys have heard of retinol for the skin? You haven't. I know you have, Laura. Retinol is the big thing, right? Vitamin A for the skin. It's also very important for all the connective tissue. And then vitamin E is your main sun protective vitamin, also very important for brain health and for the heart. And vitamin D, how many of you guys have been hearing about vitamin D lately? Right? Vitamin D is really fascinating, and there's a reason why you hear about it all the time, and that's because cells, I don't have to wind this thing down here, cells get activated by a mineral that nobody ever talks about as an activating mineral. In fact, your cells really can't do any work without this mineral, and that's the mineral calcium. Everybody thinks about calcium for their bones, most of the calcium in your body is in your bones. The calcium's real major role is to activate things. It tells cells to do their work. Muscle cells, muscle better with calcium. Pancreas cells, pancreas better with calcium. Skin cells, skin better with calcium. Calcium is your cell's main activating mineral. All the functions in a cell depend on calcium. Vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium and helps cells absorb calcium. And that's why vitamin D is good for everything. The immune system, and the skin, and the kidneys, and the lungs, and the heart. Every single system in the body benefits from vitamin D. But the best vitamin D is not the kind of vitamin D you eat, it's the kind of vitamin D you get from the sun. Even though, again, that's not what the medical model will tell us. The best vitamin D comes from the sun because, number one, your skin cells make vitamin D. And by the way, what is it in the skin cells that make vitamin D? What is the molecule in this?
Melatonin.
No. It's cholesterol. Vitamin D is cholesterol. So it's kind of funny because medical folks will tell you about how awesome vitamin D is, and they'll tell you how dangerous cholesterol is, right? And this is part of that's kind of emblematic or totemic of how we misunderstand chemistry, and we just believe stories. We believe dogma. Vitamin D any physician will tell you it's really important, but they'll also put you on a statin drug to lower your cholesterol, which vitamin D is a form of cholesterol. So anyway, the sun hits your skin, the cholesterol in your skin, turns it into vitamin D, and then it's released into your blood very slowly. The body likes to have things released into it slowly. Sustained release. Also, vitamin D that you take supplementally or in food is not active. It has to be activated by the liver and then the kidneys. Why would that be? Why would you have the body have this elaborate system or mechanism for activating vitamin D not once but twice? Activating it so it's pre-vitamin D and then activating it a second time before it's active. Why would that be? Close. I wouldn't say it's a toxin. It's powerful. You can see how you've got to control this calcium. If you have the cells flooded with calcium, the cells are going to go crazy. Everything has to be controlled. So vitamin D is so powerful, the body will control how much of it's released. So just because you take your supplemental vitamin D, if you have fatty liver disease, if you have kidney disease, which 100 million Americans have fatty liver disease, 10 to 15% of Americans have kidney disease. Some of it, a lot of more if you add in the undiagnosed. So people aren't necessarily activating their vitamin D. However, if you get your vitamin D from the sun, it's pre-activated because you can activate vitamin D in your skin. So for two reasons: number one, the sustained release, and for number two, because of the activation, sun vitamin D is the best way. And don't worry about the sun because we now know there's no such thing as skin cancer. There's skin cell cancer. And it's not the sun that causes a cell to become starved. It's not the sun that causes a cell to become hypoxic or low oxygen. It's not the sun that causes the cell to become toxic. The reason we have skin cancer is because we're toxic, our cells are toxic, our cells are suffocated, and our cells are starving. Do you guys get this? Don't blame poor Mr. Sun, who just loves us.
So what's the purpose of sunscreen, or is it?
That's a whole other story, but it's really insidious. It's really insidious.
I mean,
you're right.
Told you needed to protect you.
If I had a nickel for every time we were told something that was wrong, you know how that saying goes. Sunscreens block the sun, right? They block the sun. Do you really want to get into this? You guys want to hear this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. No, I don't mind. This is what I do. You guys know I'm in the skin business, and I've been studying the skin for many, many years, so I know a lot about the skin. And I know a lot about skin cancer. So, what's the deal with sunscreens if you need the sun for vitamin D? Well, there's three main streams of energy that come from the sun, right? They're basically lengths. They call them wavelengths. They're lengths of energy that's streaming out from the sun. Three main wavelengths that come out of the sun are called A, B, and C. Simple, right? UVA, UVB, UVC. But we'll say A, B, and C. A has a length that is appropriate for damaging cells underneath the surface of the skin. And so A is associated with photoaging, with damage to connective tissue, or maybe even mutations. B is associated with surface reactions, tanning, for example, and vitamin D, or also burning, tanning and burning, UVB, UV burning, I think. And then UVC is really, really, really short, and it is, fortunately, most of it is blocked by the ozone, but that's associated with cancers. if you really were to get it. But most people don't have to worry about that, although you all heard about the ozone layers like thinning out and all that, and so there is more UVC than there has been in the past. UVC, by the way, is being used to kill viruses because it kills things. It has a sidal effect. But the main two rays are UVA and UVB. UVA is associated with the aging, with wrinkles, with photo damage. UVB is associated with burning. UVB is also the ray that makes vitamin D. So, if you find yourself burning regularly, you may think, oh my gosh, I better use a sunscreen. Or my dermatologist told me I'm going to get cancer if I don't use a sunscreen. Or I have skin cancer, so I might have to use a sunscreen. What they're missing is there are other ways to protect your skin from the sun. Human beings grew up in Africa millions of years ago. Our bodies have learned to adjust to the sun. We have systems in place for protecting us from the sun. Our evolutionary ancestors didn't wear sunscreens. They didn't wear sunblocks, but we are the descendants of ancestors who figured out how to work with the sun from a biological perspective. So how do you strengthen your skin? How do you think? We just talked about it. There's no such thing as skin, really. There's skin cells.
See.
All of it. Nutriate your skin. Make sure you're getting all the nutrients. Make sure you're getting, and I'll tell you specifically here in a minute, but I just want you to get the general idea. We don't want to think of the skin as separated from the rest of the body and that we have to treat it in a way that's different. You don't put sunscreen on your heart. You don't put creams on your liver or on the inside of your body, but for some reason, we look at the skin as being separated from the body. It's like this covering. We don't see it as being an organ. And we don't see it as being composed of the same things that all organs are, which is cells. So you take care of the skin and you protect your skin from skin cancer by doing the same things that you do for your body, by pounding in the nutrition, by staying away from inflammatory foods, and because the skin is on the outside of the body, there's other things that you can do because the skin is a place where nutrients are deposited. So when we eat nutrients, they go into our blood and they get dispersed into our body, and one of the places they get deposited is in the skin. In fact, if you want a tan and you don't want to go out in the sun, you can get yourself something called beta-carotene pills. You ever heard of this? You take beta-carotene pills and what happens? You get a tan. How's that happening? The beta-carotene is going in through your blood. It's going into your digestive system in your blood. It's getting deposited in the skin. It happens with all pigments. So if you're worried about skin health and you're worried about aging or you're worried about skin cancer, eat pigments. But as I said earlier, the pigments don't come out of the foods very effectively, so you have to help your body get the pigments out, and that's where digestive enzymes come in. That's where braising your vegetables, steaming your vegetables comes in. That's where butter comes in. Always mix your veggies with butter, especially for older people, especially for older women whose skin tends to be thin as they get older. Braise your broccoli and put butter on top. You'll pull those pigments out, including, by the way, the sulforaphane and other nutrients that Dr. Mitchell was talking about. Pigments are amazing. And chlorophyll, by the way, which is green pigment, is extra amazing. Chlorophyll is a blood detoxifier. In fact, what is the main protein in the blood? Does anybody know? Carries oxygen? I know somebody knows. Hemoglobin, right? Hemoglobin, right? Chlorophyll, hemoglobin, and I don't want to nerd out on you here, but shape, right? I talk about chemicals and have shapes, molecules have shapes, right? The shape of hemoglobin is like a mandala, like an Indian mandala. It is so beautiful. It's organized symmetrically, and it looks literally like a mandala. And that's the hemoglobin shape. Well, guess what? The chlorophyll shape is exactly the same. Exactly the same as the hemoglobin shape. And in chemistry, you say structure equals function. The structure of a molecule has an impact on its function. Hemoglobin's structure is perfectly symmetrical structure, and its center of iron make it a powerful building substance, especially for the blood. For people who are anemic, or people who just want more energy, or people who are dealing with blood toxicity, using chlorophyll can help bump up the function of hemoglobin. And you can do chlorophyll in juices, you can do chlorophyll in green veggies, or you can actually even get chlorophyll, liquid chlorophyll supplements. Amazing nutritional supplement. Other reds, blues, greens, all of them are important for the skin. And that's one of the main reasons why our skin starts to suffer as we get older. So don't blame it on the sun. So sunscreens, in addition to blocking the ray, are very, very toxic. When I have in the pharmacy, we have a pharmacy downstairs, And sunscreens, when I order them, have a skull and crossbones on them.
Oh my.
Because if you were to drink it, you would die or have your stomach pumped. Now, I know you're not drinking it, you're putting it on your skin, but really, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to put something that's that toxic that has a skull and crossbones on it? You have to wear I have to wear gloves when I'm working with it. You want to rub that on your skin? They'll even, doctors will even tell you not to put it on baby skin because baby skin tends to be thin. But what you can do is use sunblocks. A sunblock is a chemical molecule that reflects the sun rather than electromagnetically manipulating. A sunscreen manipulates photonic energy from the sun. A sunblock reflects it. Zinc oxide is the way to go if you want to protect yourself topically. Only zinc oxide. Look for zinc oxide with vitamin C because vitamin C supports that, and vitamin E will as well. And if you go to my website, you can find my Xeno sunblock, just as an aside, which is zinc oxide and vitamin C and vitamin E.
Am I wasting money if I go to vitamin store and buy a bottle of vitamin C and vitamin
Yes.
C?
Yes, if you're not doing it strategically,
It's not-
and this is, and I'm going to wind down here because, and I'm going to bring that, I'm going to talk about that right now. I talk to so many people who are sick, but they're taking a lot of supplements, right? I'm already doing supplements, and when they say supplements, they usually mean some kind of herb, or they're taking the latest formula that they heard about on TV, or maybe their doctor told them about it. What you have to have, if you're going to start a supplement program, how many of you guys think it's important to be on start a supplement program after hearing myself and Taylor and right? You can see how important this is. But you have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. When I'm making something downstairs in the lab, I always start off with a formula. I don't just pull things off the shelf and start adding them in. I start off with a formula. I start off with a protocol, step by step. I don't know how to bake cookies, but I can bake the best chocolate chip cookies on the planet if I have what?
A formula.
Recipe.
A recipe. Strategy is like a recipe. It's what am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? When you're starting a nutritional supplement program, you want to have a strategy. What part of my body am I trying to focus on? What part of my body is compromised? What do I need to do what's the most important thing to replace? Am I drinking a lot of water? Am I losing water-soluble nutrients? Do I have a liver problem that's compromising my ability to process fats? Do I need to use enzymes with that? You have to have a strategy, and this is what we do at Youngevity, is we teach people strategies. Myself, Dr. Wallach, Dr. Mitchell, we teach people how to incorporate the strategy, how to use the strategy, what tools you need to apply the strategy. I came up with something a few years ago I call the STAR system. Have I told you about the STAR system? Can I maybe about the STAR system? STAR system is an acronym, S-T-A-R. S for strategy. Always start off with a strategy, no matter what it is you want. You want to make $1 million, you want to have a great relationship, you want to have a good job, you want to have a better connection with your parents, whatever it is. Start off with a strategy. How am I going to do this? What's my step-by-step program? But it's not enough to have a recipe. You got to have the right tools. T for tools. You got to, in terms of supplementation, you need to know about micronutrients. You need to know about Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the various Youngevity products, the kind of foods to eat. You need the tools. Then you need to know how to apply the tools. Once you have the strategy, the tools, you know how to apply them, you will always get results. And that's the STAR system. S-T-A-R. So what's the strategy? What's your nutritional supplemental strategy? I don't want to know what you're on. I want to know what is your strategy? What are you trying to accomplish? What are the steps that you're taking to go from point A to point B? Then we'll gather the tools and we'll teach you to apply the tools. What makes Youngevity so amazing is we have the strategies. We have built the strategies for you. We have the basic strategy for everybody, and we have strategies for various generic kinds of skin bodily problems. The brain and health, the brain and heart pack, the blood sugar pack, the Healthy Start pack is for everybody. We can put it together for you. If you're interested in supplementing, get on the Healthy Start pack today. Get just on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine today. Just enjoy the one that you got for free for those of you who got it for free, and then call Taylor or call Glenn or call me or call anybody, and we'll get you on the Healthy Start pack. So I don't know what you take, so I can't say for sure, but yes, absolutely, you could be wasting your money by taking things without having a strategy. What's your strategy? Right? How are you going to bake cookies without a recipe? You can maybe pull things together, maybe make something that looks like a cookie. It probably won't taste very good. But if you have a recipe, a strategy, then you can start doing it correctly. I'm happy to help.
With vitamin C, you can't just.
The vitamin C you can take a lot of. Yes, vitamin C you can take a lot of. That's one. But if you're trying to get an overall health program, you got to have all the mighty 90 essential nutrients. Sometimes people say, "What's the most important nutrient?" How many of you guys like baseball?
Oh, word.
What's the most important position?
The pitcher.
Pitcher.
Pitcher? Really? So that means if you have a
Shortstop
team.
controls the
Okay, so let's say you have a great team. You have the 1927
catcher,
Yankees.
actually. I changed my mind.
A catcher. So let's say you have the 1927 Yankees, right? Great team, but you don't have a first baseman. Are you going to win a lot of games?
Well, no.
Probably not. There's no most important player. There's no most important instrument in the orchestra, and there's no most
that's why
important
these
supplement.
three positions.
They come together. They come together. You mean, right? What position could you be without and still win a lot of games? Not a lot. And it's the same thing with nutrients. So that's what Youngevity does. It puts it all into a system for you. I'm available to you guys whenever you want. That's what pharmacists do. You can always call me or text me. You can call anybody here who's part of Youngevity, Dr. Mitchell, Glenn, anybody, Bob, and hey, Bob. And anybody here, we're all available. You know, everybody who's in Youngevity wants to help people. As I said earlier, that's what we do. Is we're here to make a difference in the world. We are the enzymes of the world. We're here to bring everything together. Youngevity people are the enzymes. All right. Thank you so much. And then we're going to do this next one too. I hope you enjoyed it. Did everybody get a gift? Who didn't get a gift? I'll stick around for some questions. I don't want everybody to come talk to me. Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
We got gifts.
Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Okay.